It was a journey, I think.
Okay, yeah.
And so there is this shift, but film critics and some of the older film critics are still saying no, games can't be art.
Well, I don't know if it's like a distinction of like high art versus like it's like have they figured out the storytelling tools?
Just as much art as a movie is art, as TV shows
I have a hard time
art.
disagreeing with that.
Face it, I mean, a lot of the stuff that's out there in television and in film and in books and in music and anywhere is not that good, and the same thing's true with games.
Yeah.
And then there are some that really are right up there.
Oh yeah.
And the perception is still that games are frivolous, are likened to toys, whereas in reality it is a medium for communication and expression.
Yes.
And when it's looked at that way, then of course it can be art.
Which leads me nicely into my next question. Serious gaming. I know it's your forte. What the heck is serious gaming?
Okay. Term was first coined by Ben Sawyer in about 2003, and it is the use of or the design of video games for purposes other than or in addition to pure entertainment.
Okay.
So these are games that have a message, that have a purpose, and it includes everything from educational games, which many people identify with serious games, through to what they call games for health. Surgical trainers, pain distraction, phobia management, military, exergaming, advergaming.
Wow, it's a broad spectrum.
It is a very broad spectrum and a fast-growing field.
Yeah, it is. And it's only as technology develops, you can just imagine the way things are going to go, which I do want to touch on in just a few minutes here. First, though, multiplayer games. Especially massively multiplayer titles. Are they offering a real opportunity to forge like real human relationships? And when I say that, I mean like face to face. Yes, we are friends. We have a relationship. Not the he's my online buddy. I think of World of Warcraft, for example. Personally, I mean, I have tinkered with the game in the past. I can't say it really forges any real world relationships with people. But that said, I mean, I know people who have. A gentleman I used to work with, actually. Well, it looks like he's going to marry a gal who's from the States, and they spend a lot of time together now in the real world. Is that commonplace? Is there this, I guess, avenue to have that type of bonding? That
I think it's there, but you're also dealing with a lot of other things on online gaming. So you have to get past the people who are there trying to prove something, the people who are very aggressive, the people who are very slanderous when they get online. And then you can find that one person who's kind of the quieter, fun person to be playing with. And yeah, you can build friendships based on that.
Has that been your experience as well, Nathan?
It's mostly kind of how you described. Like I know someone who that is true of. Like I've played MMOs. Like it's mostly I'll play with friends I know already, and we'll all go on together and do something online. But it's like I guess in the same way, it's kind of like also another avenue for just online communication. So like same way people meet through forums and Reddit and whatever. Like you could also, in theory, through a game. Like that could happen.
If I can build friendships on Facebook with people across the world, I can do it on a game. Probably better than I could on social
because you
media.
have an activity to share right there.
Some of these online exchanges during games, is it an intimate environment that does harbor, in your opinion, Katrine, potential for real relationships?
It has that potential, just like any other social space does.
Yeah.
I think in order to build the real relationships, the kind of lasting ones where people who would meet online, there has to be another aspect to it that comes into it at some point.
There's got to be some commonality and probably, I guess, some, well, obviously the passions there.
Yeah. But I mean, the history is full of examples of people who have had these long-distance relationships, whether or not they never met. People used to do pen pals.
Yeah, good point, good point.
And
Folks,
they would carry relationships. The first programmer.
Yeah, there you go, right? We're going to jump to our final break here, and we'll be right back to wrap it up. Stay with us.
I find it interesting that a lot of people are getting very upset about kind of this idea of rated R video games and they're really explicit and that kind of thing, but I see the appeal. Being somebody that's older, I enjoy playing video games. The Walking Dead is one of my favorites, and I know it's shocked some people that there's, such intense graphic content in it, but I think it's just like movies. There are rated R movies out there. There are movies that maybe you wouldn't go let your kids go watch. Then same kind of thing with video games. Some are not for kids, and that's how it is. I love them.
Okay, guys, we've only got a few moments left to wrap up our discussion. I want to talk a little bit about the progression of gaming technology. Now, The Xbox One's out if you're a console person. The Xbox One's out, the PS4's out. PC gaming hardware is going nowhere but up. The advancements are definitely, they're being made. The next step to me would be virtual reality. To me, it's going to be an interesting time. You think it's safe to say that in 5-10 years, the real emotional experience, the visceral experience will be had from games in virtual reality as opposed to, going to a movie? And the reason I ask is, you watch a movie, there's some amazing films that have been made. Granted, maybe not most of them, but there is some amazing films. But you're still just an observer. You're still a passenger along for the ride. Whereas, I think with the advent of virtual reality and these amazing storylines, is it going to be that visceral, emotional experience that maybe we've all been yearning for as gamers?
I think a lot of the gaming industry does need to take that huge step into something more, or they're going to stagnate. There's only so much more that can be offered in the platforms that we're doing right now. But if they step forward into something like virtual reality, I think that's going to be huge. I would love to play Final Fantasy in virtual reality. You probably wouldn't get me out of my house until I was done.
Well, is there an inherent danger with that as well?
Probably.
I'm trying to think, people have already spent countless hours in a game like Skyrim, for example. It's just very immersive, detailed RPG. If you add an extra layer of you are in the world, I can easily see people getting a little, not to use the term addiction as we've already discussed, but it's
obsessed.
Let's
say obsessed.
Obsessed, sure.
I would be concerned with things like damage to the eyes and to the balance.
They're definitely working on that,
definitely with a lot of things that are coming out now that are very technological and in your face. People are having balance problems.
Yeah. Serious game-wise, though. If you could teach somebody CPR, you can teach a whole group of people CPR.
The possibilities are really very exciting and tremendous for using this as technology for teaching, for delivering messages. If you want someone to understand what it's like to be a homeless person, for example, you could put them in the place of a homeless person and have them play a scenario where they are that.
Although at some point I question whether graphical fidelity is really the barrier there. There's this really simple independent game called Cart Life that puts you in the shoes of an immigrant who's working in a newspaper stand, and it's just 8-bit graphical, 16-bit maybe, but just through the activities you have to do, you learn an incredible amount of just this guy's life and hardships. It was really compelling, and it won an
That's
IGF
not why
award.
I play video games.
I know. It's it was one kind of game where it's just this is worse than my job. I don't want to do this.
I want a good story. I don't want something that's going to make me walk out depressed.
Papers, Please was a game last year where it's you were manning a immigration booth.
I heard about this game.
Yeah, and it's just this is more stressful than anything I deal with, but now I'm in this guy's shoes, and it's this really cool way to kind of see a different world, but maybe a sadder world, but you learn lessons.
No, I think there's definitely some emotional experiences to be had there. Real quick, guys, are video games to blame for keeping kids indoors? And are motion tracking games, like we see with the Xbox One, the Kinect, are they a real alternative means to keeping kids active?
I love things like the Kinect, and my kids love them. They think it's great to get up and see the TV responding to them. But I think it's not the game's fault that kids stay inside, it's the parents.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's not so much you notice parks are getting a little bit empty. I don't see a lot of street hockey games anymore. even that walk to a 7-Eleven with your buddy as a child. These are experiences where you're kind of forced to make unsupervised and real decisions. And I wonder if video games, I get it, parents keeping their kids indoors, keeping them safe, keeping them entertained. You don't subscribe to the theory?
Well, I do understand why parents are keeping their kids at home, but the crime statistics don't bear out, don't give us any real reason. Crime has been going down for the last 40 years, while parents are becoming more and more afraid to let their children out.
I guess,
guys, unfortunately, time flies. I know, right?
It's gamification. That's all it is. Yeah.
I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. As always, an informative discussion. Of course, you can keep the conversation going on Facebook as well as Twitter. If you have a show topic you'd like us to discuss, don't be a stranger and drop us a line. Thanks again, and take care.